Hi guys, what I want to cover today is a very easy snake rack build. This will be one of the easiest snake rack builds that you can do. You can get all the supplies at Home Depot. The only tool you'll need is a drill. The only supplies you're going to need are going to be some pre-cut boards, some screws, and then some 2x4s that I would recommend just having Home Depot cut to whatever maximum size you want there in the store. So this is going to be a very, very easy snake rack build. You're not going to need hardly any tools at all, just a drill. And what's going to make this snake rack build easy is you're not going to have to cut the laminate boards, which is where you might run into some issues trying to have them cut it with their own tools. You can do it. You can buy larger sheets there, but that's not what we're going to do in this build. This build is going to work very well for a Sterilite 1996 or a 74 quart option. You can see a little bit more details about this tub here. It's 44 inches long, almost 20 inches wide, and a little over 6 inches high. So this is great for anything that needs a lot of horizontal space. I've kept Madagascar hognose snakes in here. I've kept dwarf boas in here. I've kept Batius mucosa in here. Just to name a few of the snakes that I've kept in there. So there's a lot of snakes that can really fit in this. I think it'd probably be good for bull snakes or anything that's a little bit larger. Russian rat snakes is another species I kept in here. That it's good for things that aren't super large, but for things that need a little bit larger space, and for things that which are not arboreal. So to fit this 74 quart tub, what I recommend you get is something like this. Every Home Depot should have these, I believe. It's going to be a almost 2 foot by 4 foot melamine pre-cut shelf board. So you're going to be able to buy these. These are light enough that a single person can carry them. And you can actually assemble it yourself if you need to. It's easier if you have two people, but if you don't, I'll put a link below to the type of clamp that I use so I could actually assemble this rack myself. Now, pros and cons about melamine. You're going to hear a lot of stuff. A lot of people say racks will warp or something like that. If they get a tiny amount of moisture on it, they're just going to fall apart. I haven't found any of these things to be true. I've been using these. I have a few of these homemade racks that I use, and I've been using them for years, and I haven't had any warping. The same tubs pull in and out exactly the same way that they always have. You know, unless you're just saturating it in water, I don't think it's going to fall apart. I certainly haven't had anything like that. I haven't even had any swelling on mine. And the room in here that I keep it in, it does get humid in the summer. It gets dry in the winter, humid in the summer, and it doesn't seem to really be expanding or contracting or anything. Like I said, I've been using it for years. So those concerns aside, unless you're planning on dumping water on the ends of the racks and like literally saturating it's not going to fall apart. I have not had any experience where mine sagged. That just hasn't happened at all. I'm not even really sure how much sagging it really could do because the tubs hold it in place. And my tubs are not any harder to pull out or push in than the day I assembled it. So from that perspective, I think it's pretty easy. And basically the one part that is a little bit tricky, and this is going to be, if anything goes wrong, here's where it would go wrong. There's nothing to assembling it. You literally just have a 2x4 cut off as high as you need it to be. You're going to have 4 2x4s, like you saw in the picture at the front. One for each post. One for each corner, let's say. And you're going to drill a hole. You're going to pre-drill a hole and then put a screw in there. I don't remember exactly which link screw I used. I used drywall screws. Looks like they're probably about 4 inches. And this is the one part where something can go wrong. If you don't drill the hole straight through the 2x4 and into the melamine, you can split the melamine if you hit a corner of the melamine instead of hitting it in the middle. So that is the one thing you want to take note of, and that's why you're going to want to either have the clamps that I'll link to below, or you're going to want to have a second person so that things can be held in place and you can aim properly while you're screwing it in. But as far as the assembly goes, it couldn't be easier. You set the first piece of melamine down on the ground, And the first piece is actually the hardest. Line up the board to the edge of the melamine, one post in each corner, and start screwing it together. Once you get the first piece in there, once you get the first piece screwed together, set one of the Sterilite totes in there, and put something maybe like a piece of cardboard at each corner of the melamine. That piece of cardboard will give it enough play that it won't be, won't be hard to push in or pull out. And then you set your next piece of melamine on there, screw that piece in, and keep going up for as high up as you want to go. And you'll see they slide in and out. Now, these tubs here, the Sterilite 1996, generally you want to go tubless, or you want to go lidless with a rack. I don't recommend you do that in this case. It's actually really handy to pull it halfway out, as you can see I've done here. And you can open up the top, and you can do most of your cleaning. You can change out your water, you can feed and everything just by opening that front latch and pulling up the front part, pulling it about halfway out. That tends to be a really convenient way to use these racks. I recommend you leave the lid on. It'll make it harder for the animal to escape. And also, we talked about moisture and stuff. A lot of people worry about moisture and things. With these racks, it's not going to happen because the lid is going to add even further protection there. And as far as airflow, I just drill holes in the side. I'll put a link below to the tool I use to drill the holes in the side. I used to use a soldering gun. You can use that. You can use a soldering iron. I'll link to one of those also. The only thing with soldering iron is it does make fairly good holes, but there's a lot of smoke and smolder while it's happening. And I just don't like to breathe that stuff in. So there's another tool I found. It basically, I think it's called basically it's like a step drill. And you'll drill different holes one step at a time, or one little punch at a time. And it makes nice round holes. Like I said, I'll put a link to the exact one I used below. So you can use that to make holes up and down the sides of your tubs. You can put some in the front or the back, depending on how much airflow you want. And then, of course, if the room you're keeping it in isn't quite warm enough, or if the species you're keeping would use a basking spot, I pretty much put heat tape on the back of all of mine. I haven't found any need to try to recess the heat tape or anything like that. I just put the heat tape directly on top, tape it down with a foil tape, and the tubs slide in and out no problem right over the top of it. I've been using it for years and I've never had a problem. So anyway, this is a quick video. There's not a lot of detail that I'm going to give you, and that's a good thing because it actually means there's not a lot of detail that's needed. You basically just lay down the first board, screw in the 4-post, put a bin on top, put one piece of cardboard around each corner of the bin so that there's a little bit of play. Set the next board on top of that, screw it in, keep going till you're all the way to the top. And then once you're done, you're going to get some heat tape, whatever size you need. I believe I used 12-inch heat tape. As long as you want it, I would say no more than that absolute maximum 1/3 of the length of the tub. Put that on there. Make sure you use a good quality thermostat with heat tape. That will prevent your problems. That will prevent your tub from melting. That will prevent your animals from getting too hot or too cold. And I will recommend the Herpstat is the one I like to use, proportional thermostat controller. If there's another model you like, feel free to use that. But I would invest in a quality thermostat because you don't want it to fail. And you certainly don't want it to fail in the open position where it's running full throttle, which can happen, unfortunately, with any thermostat, but it's more likely to happen with the cheaper models. So if you have any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, here's an idea for building a rack without any tools, without any carpentry knowledge, without a lot of fuss. You should be able to build this rack in a couple of hours. Thank you very much.